Hello, my math maniacs. All right, today we're going over Algebra 1, and we're going to start going into Chapter 3, Lesson 4, which is multiple step inequalities, right? I have some things right behind me. I'm going to step out of the screen, copy these down, and then listen to what I have to say about them. So I'm just going to step off for just a moment. All right, now that you have those copied down, so again, this is 3-4A, multiple step inequalities, and you're probably wondering why I have this little arrow, and that's because the reason this is going to be part A is that the variables like X or Y, any letter of the alphabet, is only going to be on one side of the equal or the inequality sign. So we're only going to have the variable on one side, right? Which does mean, spoiler alert, that in 3-4B, you'll probably have equations that have variables on both sides, right? I know, spoiler alert, I'm so sorry, but, I just get excited. All right, so the other thing we're going to be looking for is we're going to be looking for parentheses. Right? That's always going to be your first step in multiple step equations, is look for parentheses. If you don't see any, or maybe you do, then you look for like terms. Now remember, like terms are usually the same variable. That's what this says, same variable twice. We see two x's, and again, they're always going to have to be on the same side. Or the one that's a little bit harder to detect is when you have two plain numbers that are on the same side. So a -7 and a +10. If they're already on the same side, those become like terms, all right? So that's why it says two plain numbers on the same side. And then the other thing you always want to keep an eye out for towards the end of the problem is if you have a negative variable, right? If you have that negative variable, remember on the previous lessons, if you divide or multiply with a negative, you got to take your inequality sign and you got to flip it around. All right, so just kind of keep an eye out for this. So always refer to these four things when we start doing the multiple step inequalities. And I'm going to put some problems up on the board. All right, so here's going to be our first two examples. I'm going to step off the screen for just a moment. As soon as I step off, hit pause and copy these down, and then hit play again, and we'll go from there. All right, so now that you have these written down, hopefully you also written down, this is going to be my little checklist. All right, so I'm going to go through this as I solve. So here's our equation. It says 9 plus 4y is greater than 21. If you can't remember that this is a greater than sign, look in your notes at that little table that we had made with the inequality signs. So again, first step, I'm going to look for parentheses. Hey, I don't have any. Nice. So there's no parentheses. Now, I'm going to look for like terms, right? So I'm looking for more than one letter y. There's none there. Or I'm looking for more than one plain number on the same side. If I don't have those, guess what? I got no like terms. And then I'm just going to keep an eye out. Do I have a negative x? Well, this says plus 4y, so that looks like a positive 4. So I think this is going to be no. So guess what? This should be relatively easy because this is only a two-step equation. So I'm just going to quickly solve this one. So again, I always draw my fence at my inequality sign or the equal sign. Get rid of plus or minus first, all right? And again, you're going after the variable. That's the person that you are interested in at the party. So you go to the room where they're standing. So I go in here. I'm going to get rid of the 9 first because there's a gap, right? He's furthest away. That's the easiest person to get rid of. So I'm just going to go minus 9 because he's a positive 9. So minus 9 from this side. Be careful, this is just a 4y. You don't have to drop down the plus sign. Drop down my inequality sign. 21 minus 9 is 12, right? So that's my first step. I got rid of that 9. Now I look at this 4 again. If it's that close together, there's no gap. That means multiplication. So on this one again, drop. Make your fence at the inequality sign. And then I'm going, the opposite of times is not minus 4. The opposite is divide. Let me make sure you can see the division sign. So there's the division sign. We're going to divide by 4. Divide by 4. Right? I do not change the sign of this number. I don't make it negative or positive. I just copy it down. So these two, just like the 9s did, they cancel out. The y falls down. And I didn't have that negative x term or a negative variable, so I don't even have to worry about switching that over. 12 divided by 4 is 3. And then here's my simple graph. There's my 3. Here's a negative 3. That's a regular one, so that's an open circle. And it says y is greater than. So I go to that side. Okay, so pause the video right now and copy down number 1, and then we'll just do number 2. Okay, so now we're at number 2. Again, go through our checklist. So, do I have parentheses? No. Great. Do I have like terms? No, I only see one x and I only see one plain number that's on the same side. Do I have a negative x? Well, I look at this, and it says negative 6x, which is a negative 6 times x. That's kind of a warning sign. So that means I do have a negative x. So that's going to mean I'm going to have to switch my inequality sign towards the end. But again, this just ends up being a two-step equation since I don't have any of these going on. All right, so again, I'm going to go after the plus or minus. Here's my fence. I'm going to do the opposite, and you got to do it to both sides. I'm always going after the side with the variable. If the variable was over here, that's where I would go. If the variable is on this side. Drop down the negative 6. Drop down my inequality sign. 17 plus 7 is a 24. And then this is where I got to worry about this negative x, right? This is a negative 6x. Hopefully when you dropped it down, you didn't forget your negative sign. So, remember, the opposite of this is not positive 6. This is times. Again, the opposite is division. So I'm dividing by that negative 6. And remember, from the previous lesson, if you're dividing by a negative, you switch our signs. So the x falls down. This was pointing at the x. Now I got to turn it around. This is going to, 24 divided by negative 6 makes a negative 4. And again, I'm just going to kind of highlight that these got switched around because I divided by a negative 6. Here's my graph. Here's a 0. Here's a positive 4. Here's a negative 4. This says x is greater than or equal to. So the equal to means a colored in dot. Again, if you can't remember this, look back on your previous notes and draw the arrow going in that direction, right? So, if you need to, hit pause. Make sure that you get this copied down. But do not skip over the instructions unless you can really learn this on your own or you understand every step. All right, we're going to go with some more equations. All right, so here's examples 3 and example 4. I'm going to step off the screen. As soon as I do, hit pause, copy down these two examples and those checklists. Okay, so now we're going to go over example 3. Again, go through your checklist. So, do we have parentheses? Well, this time we do. So, stop right there, and let's get rid of the parentheses. Now, before I do that, I'm going to drop down everything that doesn't have parentheses around it. Dropping down my negative 5. I'm dropping down, I got to be careful, I have to minus 4y. So, minus negative 4y. And then, that 3, he's in front of the parentheses. So that's what's going to be doing the multiplication. So remember, parentheses always means times. So I go 3 times y, 3y. 3 times 1, positive 3. Right, so that's my first step in this equation is 3y plus 3 minus 4y is greater than negative 5. So then I stop and I look, do I have like terms? Do I have more than one variable already on the same side? And I do. I have a 3y and a negative 4. So I'm going to circle my like terms and circle their operation that's in front. So I have a 3 and a 4. Again, first, drop down everything that's not involved. Drop down the inequality sign, drop down the negative 5, drop down this plus 3, and then you just simply type in your calculator 3 plus negative 4, and you're going to get a negative 1y. Now, So we did have like terms. Now, do we have a negative x or a negative variable? Yeah, we have a negative 1y. So I got to be careful at the end. Now I'm just going to quickly solve this because it's a two-step equation. Make my fence minus the 3 from both sides. I haven't changed this yet. Negative 3 plus negative 5 is negative 8. Drop down my negative 1y. These canceled out. And then here, this is where that I'm going to be dividing by a negative. So again, it's not plus 1. It's divide by negative 1. Divide by negative 1. The y falls down. This gets turned around. And then negative 8 divided by negative 1 is a positive 8. And I'm not going to put a graph on this one, but you will have to graph most of your answers. All right, so that problem is done. Hit pause right now and copy it down. All right, number 2, again. So on number 2, we have negative 3 minus 6. And we have these parentheses, so that means times. That's going to be 4x plus 6, close it, greater than negative 111. So, first thing, always look for parentheses. Do we have those? Check. All right, let's do the parentheses, but you got to be careful. Drop down everything we're not dealing with. So, there's my inequality sign. Here's the negative 111. That's in the parentheses. This minus 6 is part of it because it's right in front, so I'm going to drop down that negative 3. So I'm going to go negative 6 times this, negative 6 times that. So that's why I get negative 24x. And then negative times a positive is negative 36. All right, so that's our new problem or equivalent expression after we take care of the parentheses. So at this point, we look for like terms. Well, there's only one x. But remember the other type of like terms is if you have two plain numbers on the same side. Well, this negative 3, it's a plain number. There's no alphabet with it. And that negative 36 is also a plain number. There's no alphabet with it. So we do have like terms. We have a negative 36 and a negative 3. So again, drop down everything we're not going to mess with. Dropping down my negative 111. I'm going to drop down my negative 24x. Do not leave that minus sign up there. Now, these guys are on the same team. They're both negative, so I'm going to actually add them up. They're going to make a 39. And they're on the negative team. So at this point, I do notice that I have a negative x term. So I am going to have to watch out for this at the end of the problem. All right, so again, I'm going to come over to where the x is. I'm not going to go after the 24 first. It's too close. There's a gap. I'm going to go after that 39. So draw my fence or my wall. I go plus 39, because that's the opposite of minus, plus 39. Drop down my inequality sign. These guys cross out. That's why we do this. Negative 24x. Make sure that negative comes with it. And then here, these guys, even though you go negative 111 plus 39, they're on different teams. We're going to subtract, and we should get a negative 72. All right, so we get a negative 72 because the negative 111 has more players. And then we're watching out for this negative again. So the opposite is divide. It is not plus. Divide, and it's dividing by a negative 24, dividing by a negative 24. That means these do cancel out. The x falls down. Switch. Okay? And then negative 72 divided by 24 is a positive 3. All right, so again, I'm not going to graph this one. So take a moment. Copy this one down. You're at the end of the lesson. And as always, you have a math-tastic day.